start recording. All right. Welcome to Lifespan Development. And there we go. Okay. Welcome to Lifespan Development, everyone. This is one of my favorite classes, actually, to teach. And tonight we're going to go over several different things about the class in terms of expectations and assignments. I've made some changes to a couple of things that I actually think everyone's going to like. I think you'll appreciate, and I'm going to go over all of those things tonight. We're only meeting an hour tonight on purpose as an intro class. I typically do this on Saturday, the Saturday we start, but I was out of town, and so I moved it to Thursday. The summer session is like everyone be flexible session because there's people traveling and there's other things going on. But I have set out all of the Zoom class dates on a document on Moodle. I'm going to go over all of this here in a second. I'm going to keep all those dates pretty constant. We're going to meet a few other times during the summer via Zoom, and I will always record the classes as well, so you can have that. I do have a few students that have in-person classes tonight that won't be able to join the Zoom, and so that's why I record the classes. But we actually have quite a few folks here tonight, which is great. So tonight we're going to go over some assignment information, expectations for the class. I'm going to put you guys into groups for one activity tonight, and we will do some group activity work every class time. I try to break the class up. It'll be a little bit of lecture, a little bit of discussion, a little bit of group time, and I'm actually going to try some new things this semester that I've never done before in this class. So you guys are going to be like guinea pigs basically for that. I think it will be good. I've tried to make a few changes based on feedback that I get from students, but also just things that we're trying to improve in the department as a whole. And so most of the changes that I'm making are mainly geared towards all the folks going towards LPC, LMFT, school counseling. If you're taking this class as an elective for another kind of track, which happens, we have people that take this as an elective. The changes that I made is not going to, you're still going to be able to handle it. It's not a big deal, but it might feel a little bit different for you. So most typically this class is maybe one of the first classes people take, or one of the most early classes people take in the program, at least in my experience. But having said that, we could have folks that this is the last class you're taking right before pre-prac. So a little bit of everything, but most of the time it's usually one of the first classes. Having said that, if you have a question during the Zoom class, you can either put it in the chat. You can put up like a little like raise your hand. I don't know if y'all can see that. I've got like a little raised hand on my face there. You can do that. That's down in the reactions. You can do that. I'll see it. Or you can just jump in. And there's sometimes I'm going to ask questions and want you guys to talk about things. I always just ask just to make sure you're unmuted when you're talking. Okay. All right. I'm going to get over here. The PowerPoints that I'm going to show tonight are actually on Moodle. You guys can grab those if you want. You don't have to. I'm in the process of putting brand new PowerPoint slides up because we're using a different version of the book, which has been another problem in and of itself that I'll talk about here in a second. Okay. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. If you can't see that, just let me know. I'm trying to make it fairly good size. And again, you could pull this up on your computer if you want from Moodle. It's the exact same thing. So I just went over all these things. The big change is going to be in the study guides, or actually in the exams, the 2 exams. The study guides are going to stay the same for everyone, but there's going to be some pretty big changes in terms of exams. And I'll go over that here in a second. I actually just decided today to do that, because when I make these syllabi, like I'm making the syllabi for the fall right now, which is kind of a long way away. And sometimes I change things based on class feedback and stuff. So I got a lot of feedback from the last class within the last couple of weeks that made me rethink a couple of things. So I'm going to make a couple of changes there. The other changes that I'm making for this class, you guys don't even know. You never taken the class before, so you have no idea. We're actually going to do a little bit more interaction in terms of like we're going to start learning some therapy skills early. We're going to start in this class. That's a little different than some classes maybe, but that's some of the feedback that I've gotten back, and I'm going to talk about all that as we go. Let's talk a little bit about the exercises. In your book, any edition of the book that you have, we're trying to use edition 18. I'm not sure what's going on or what was going on with the library, but apparently there was some issue getting the book from the library, at least for some people. We're actually using a totally different edition in the fall. So I think maybe they're having trouble. I don't know what's going on, but we're trying to use edition 18. But any edition that you have, if you have something earlier than edition 17, then you'll need to shoot me a message so I know that, so we can try to figure that out. But every edition that you have, in every chapter of the book, you'll see little sections like this. There's 2 or 3 little sections like this in every chapter, right? And it's called Review, Connect, Reflect. And it's basically the author's way of, partway through a chapter, since I don't know if you guys have noticed, there's a lot of information in this book. The print's very small, and it's like enough to teach 3 classes out of. So one of the things the author has done is periodically in the chapters have got these little sections where you stop and you review what you've read, maybe connect a life experience from yourself, and then maybe reflect on that as well. And they've done that on purpose because that's like a teaching tool. It's basically a learning tool. So I use that learning tool as an assignment, as one of the assignments for this class. And so you'll see these throughout the whole book. They're all over the place, every chapter. What your assignment is, the exercises, there's really just a couple of things you're going to want to worry about. As you're reading, you're going to want to pick 2 of these sections, and you're going to basically do the review, connect, reflect, like short answer, like on a document, short answer for like as you're answering the questions, and you're going to turn that into me. But make sure you do 2 of them, not just 1 of them. Okay. So for example, this one I think is out of the first chapter. I think this might be the very first one that's in the book. You can choose this. I don't care which one you choose. You can choose this one. It doesn't matter to me. My suggestion is always just kind of do them as you read. It makes it easier. As you go along and one pops up, it's usually easier to just do that one. As long as you do 2 of these. And so you'll do 2 of these in one document, right? So you'll put the actual as the heading, review, answer the questions, connect, whatever that, answer whatever it's asking you, and then reflect whatever it's asking you, you're going to write there too. But make sure you do 2 of them, and you'll turn that into me. And I think the first one's not due until, I believe it's the 24th, which is a week from Saturday. The very first assignment, I'll give you pretty quick feedback, and inevitably someone forgets to do 2 of them. And I might say, hey, I can't give you a grade, or I'll give you half a grade until you do both of them. That happens all the time. I have communicated about this in multiple ways, and sometimes people just forget, or sometimes maybe it gets a little bit confusing. And so I just give you a lot of feedback on the first one. and I'll let you know, hey, this is right. How you're doing, it's great. Keep going. Do the next one the same way, and that's awesome. So you'll turn that into me on the 24th. Okay. Everyone always asks me like, how long should it be, or how many pages? And I realize we're in a graduate program where pages matter. A typical assignment like this is a short answer assignment. It's not a research paper. You don't have to cite anything because you're getting all the information from where? The book. I know where you're getting the information. It's not your information, except for when you're reflecting, right? When you're reflecting, it's obviously coming from you. So I would always say, 2 to 3 pages is probably plenty of space. I am not a professor where more is better. I am less is better, less is more. I like less because I got to read 40 of these every, grading, when I 3 times. And so I really want to give you feedback. So 2 to 3 pages is great. Inevitably, someone writes 10 pages. And that's fine too, but I will usually stop reading after a while. 2 to 3 pages is awesome. Now, sometimes people write that much because they really get into it, to be honest with you. Some of this information you guys are going to read about in certain chapters might really resonate with you in your life, like in your experience, or things you want to learn more about. And that's actually great. That's really good. I think that's fine. Just for our assignment use, 2 to 3 pages is great. It's perfect. Okay. Someone's got Elvia. Is it Elvia?
It's Elvia.
Elvia.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify to make sure. When you say choose 2 of these, like, so I would choose, like, for example, the review and the connect section.
This is one section, choose
Right.
2 sections, right? So you're going to do one whole section of this twice,
Okay.
right? So this is one section. Review, connect, reflect is one section.
Oh, okay. That's one section.
Yep.
Got it.
You're going to do 2 of them, each assignment.
Okay.
And there's 2 to 3 of these sections in every chapter.
Oh, so then I choose, like, if the chapter has 3 of them, then I choose.
Just choose
Got
2,
it.
no matter what. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't.
No, you're fine. Good question. Does that make sense?
It makes sense because now I'm seeing chapter 1 that it does have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It just says T Hooker, and I don't know the first name, so just jump in.
Hi. So when you say choose 2, like 2 per chapter or just 2 per chapter? I see you shaking your head. Yeah.
2 per assignment.
2 per assignment. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So 2 per assignment. If you do 2 per chapter, you're going to end up doing about 34 of them.
Right. That's a lot. Okay.
You don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. Who wants to? I guess you could do that if you wanted to, but not for me.
No, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Great question. And that's why I talk about it, because I know this is, I just want to make sure everybody understands. Any other question about this? Ann, you have your hand up.
Hi. Let's see. In it's edition 19 that we have, actually, I saw a couple of other people. It looks completely different than this. It's
Okay.
It's a long blue box instead. So this helps significantly to know that now that you've explained that. Is there a printed version of this book? Because the electronic version is temperamental.
I'm assuming that there is, because
I asked and they told me that you can print the electronic book, but when I did that, it printed do not copy in about 45 point font behind this, and you couldn't read it.
Yeah, Karen's got one held up. I've got one here somewhere, but I've got an instructor copy. Just FYI, publishing companies will always print books because they cost more. You're going to always be able to find a print book. Amazon, you can rent books now. There's multiple places to find it. Yeah.
I tried to find it, but I could only find the electronic book. I would much rather have the actual.
Yeah. And actually
I-
they've got, and actually, I don't know if anyone has this, but they have there's one with 3 rings in it that you can put in a notebook. I actually like that better. You
I
can use
got that from Amazon.
Yeah.
I got that. I got that version.
If anybody's on here and wants to do this real quick, if you could jump on Amazon and send a link out, that'd be awesome.
I found one on booksrun.com too.
Any place. This guy's a very super popular author in terms of like he's been around a long time. And I realize this edition's the picture you guys are seeing is from like 2 or 3 editions ago, and it does the look of it does change, but the general idea should still be there.
Yeah, it's there. It was just I was trying to figure out where this came from. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad you.
Yeah. It just looks different. I just need to update. I just haven't updated this. Does that all make sense? Hopefully. Awesome. I got a bunch of chats. All right, so 2 per assignment, not 2 per chapter, as a reminder. So every assignment, you just pick 2. Megan's saying she hadn't even gotten the book yet. And then it just says T. Hooker. Could you tell me your first name so I don't say T. Hooker? I just would rather know your name. I just don't have all my stuff in front of me.
It's Tashibra. I just
Tashibra.
normally, yes, because sometimes people butcher my first name. So,
Well, I want to get it right. I'd rather know what it is. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Tashibra's put a link up here for the book, just if you guys want to grab it in the chats right there.
Yeah.
And just don't be surprised. Don't get sticker shock because these books are expensive. If you buy it, I think when I first started, I've been teaching this class since 2013. When I first started, the books were like $85. Now they're like a lot more than that. So, but any other questions about this? Because this is only the first part. There's a second part of the assignment that's actually super easy, way easier. All right. After you turn this into me, then you have a week to go onto the forum and answer. There's usually a forum. I'll have a forum question posted. You'll just answer it and then make comments on each other's forum posts. Do you need to make a certain amount of comments? I don't really care. I'm not going to keep track of it, to be quite honest with you. What I have found is that I don't have to really police it. Most of the time, people make comments because I have found that those forum discussions are really good. And I do look at them and police them and look at them and not police them. That sounds bad. Like I do look at them and make sure that we aren't saying, things that are too in left field. But in general, they're really good. And actually, I think they're actually really helpful. So you're going to turn in part A to me, the first part of 2 review, connect, reflect sections. You're going to turn that into me. Short answer, 2 to 3 pages. The second part is you're going to go on and answer the forum question and then read and make comments on other people's posts. And you have a week to do that. Any question about that? Priority textbook. Go to Priority Textbook, people. $80. See, we're crowdsourcing right now. It's happening. It's all live. Okay. Talked about the forum discussion. These are all the dates for the Zoom class dates. This is also on the due dates document, so it's in multiple places, so you guys can see it. And I'll also send emails out. Obviously, you'll get some announcements from me every week. Sometimes 2 or 3 announcements a week. Most of the time, I try to keep it to 1. I don't want to clog up everyone's email, but every once in a while, I have to send more than 1. They're always going to be on Thursdays, typically 7 to 9 p.m. is when they're going to be. Why 7 to 9? Because back in the old days before COVID, we used to meet in class from 6:30 to 9 or 9:30 in Garland or Frisco. So we would all troop over to Garland or Frisco together from all points of the Metroplex, and we'd sit in the classroom and actually, like, this is like in the old days, right? This is a long time ago, long ago. We would meet. So we usually get done by 9. And at Amerton, we start classes late because we gear all of our classes towards work schedules, and most people's work schedules end by 6 or 7. Not everybody. That's generally, so I just pick 7 to 9 just because it's easier. On this 22nd, which is actually next week, we're going to dive right into childhood. I've basically broken it down into childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. We're going to talk about different clinical issues or areas in each one of those developmental stages. Are there multiple developmental stages in each of those stages? Absolutely. Right? So there's, infancy, there's toddler, there's the elementary age that leads right up kind of to the middle school, which is we're going to focus mostly on that next week. The adolescent period is mainly from, it's broken into three phases. So the early adolescence is that 13 to 15-ish roughly stage. 16 to 19 or so is that middle adolescence. Late adolescence or emerging adulthood, it's everything 20 up to 26 or 7 roughly. We're going to break it down like that. Adulthood will be 27, 28 and on, and we'll kind of talk about all of those areas. Inside of one of these discussions, at some point, I will put in a discussion about emotional development. And the reason I do that is because if you're going to be a counselor in any way, you need to know a little bit about that. I find that to be very helpful to people. So we're going to talk about emotional development. And I'm going to walk you through just an overview of that process. And obviously that process is different in each one of these stages. And we will talk about that too as we go through. I try to use actual clinical, like I said, issues or disorders or things like that inside of our discussions. And in other words, I'm going to trust you guys to read the book. And I'm not going to go over the book, page by page. I'm going to talk about like practical applications of stuff that you're reading. That's what this class will be for. Okay. Someone's got their hand up. I've got a ton of people. Go ahead. Someone, I can't see who.
Hi, this is Elvia again. I had a question about the midterm and the final.
Mhm.
Is it going over like certain chapters in the book or chapters and class notes?
Mm-hmm. So we're actually going to talk about that here in a second.
Okay.
So just hold that question. Good question. Because that's one of the biggest changes. Let me talk a little bit about the research paper. So there's two main sections of this paper. The first section is the research paper part, where you're going to choose a life stage, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, one of those. And then you're going to basically, the first piece is kind of give basic information about the stage that you chose. And especially if you get really specific, if you decide to choose adolescence, let's say, and then you say, well, I'm going to really focus on adolescence, but really what I'm talking about is junior high, then you'll get really specific about the information that you give. You're going to also choose a disorder or an issue in that stage that's common in that stage. Like, for example, you can never go wrong by ever choosing depression or anxiety, ADHD in those stages. Those are some of the most common disorders or issues. Then you're going to talk about treatment options for whatever that issue or disorder is. Okay, that's all the research part. You can use the book as a resource, and then you're going to need 3 other resources besides the book, which could be other books, but my suggestion would be to find articles Those articles typically are going to be where you find information about the disorder or the issue and the treatment options that you're looking into. So you'll have 4 sources total. You can have more, but 4 is the minimum. The second half of the paper, which is really shorter, it's going to be a lot shorter. It's only 20% of the paper, is basically reflections. And I've got 4 questions that you're going to answer by way of reflecting on this whatever topic you chose. And it makes a lot more sense when you read the questions. Why did you choose this topic? What did you learn? Did your opinion about something change? And what would you like to know more about? Or what would you like to study more about this topic? Those are the 4 questions. It's 4 to 6 pages. In grad school, the rule of thumb for most research papers is 1 page per source. So if you're if you have 5 sources, it would be common to have a 5-page paper. That would be most common. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's just a kind of a general rule of thumb. This paper, you need 4 sources. So 4 to 6 pages is awesome. Perfect. You don't need an abstract, but otherwise it's all APA style. Every research paper you write in this program will always be APA style. And I've got like some cheat, websites for you guys to look at for APA, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. Okay. I've got an actual document on Moodle that talks specifically about this assignment as well. That goes into a little bit more detail. I'm actually also going to put up an example of a paper that the first paper I've ever given 100 to. I'm going to put that up on Moodle as well. So you guys can see just an example of how someone that did a really good job, what they wrote. I don't think I put it up yet, actually. Let me look. I don't think I did. No, not yet, but I will. She did a good job. Okay. Any questions about the paper? And as we get closer to the due date, you might have more questions, and that's fine. That's fine. Most of the time, people choose the life stage they either know the most about, and they kind of write about it just because they know a lot about it already. If you're already writing another paper in another class that's similar to this, you could, like use the same sources. That'd be smart. Sometimes people write a paper about things they don't know very much about, like someone that says, I think I'm going to end up working with adolescents, but I'd like to know more about childhood. They might write a paper about that just to learn more. Some people do that. It doesn't really matter to me what you choose. If you're not sure about the topic or the stage, just shoot me a message, and I'll just kind of walk you through what I'm thinking, and a lot of times I might give you like some resources too. But as we get closer to the end of the semester, we will definitely talk about this a little bit more, because you'll have more questions usually by then. I mean, 4 to 6 pages, you're welcome. That's short. Y'all can do that. That's manageable. I could have made it like 10 or 15, but then I'd be reading it till December. You would never get your grades. I'm just kidding. This is being recorded. Don't hear Dr. Bedard say he doesn't want to do that. I got to be careful what I say, I guess. Okay, let's talk about the exams. So there's study guides for the midterm and the final. They're already listed there on Moodle. I am caught between editions. So the final study guide has got some questions on it that are not necessarily found in the 18th or 19th edition. So what I am going to choose to do is I am changing the midterm and final exams. And I think what I'm going to do is make them much shorter than 75 questions. Probably like 25 questions a piece. And what you will see when you take the exam, the questions from the exam will look suspiciously similar to the study guide. You can use the study guide for the exam. You can use your book. You can use Google. You can phone a friend. Because when I first started doing this long ago, there's no way to police it. And my goal here is not to fail people. My goal is to help you learn something. And so the study guides that you'll fill out, you don't have to, they're just there for you. But if you go through that study guide and use it while you read, you will do great on the exam. And it's way harder than the exam. The study guides are probably the hardest thing you'll do in any of my classes. But I think what's going to happen is those exams are going to be about 25 questions, because I'm going to take out a ton of questions that just don't match where we are now in our editions. I'm kind of like caught in between editions right now, and I just haven't been able to catch up. So I'm just going to cut out a bunch of questions. So it will no longer be a 75 multiple choice question exam. It'll probably be 25. Now, what that means is your paper and your exercises carry more weight now, because you're going from 150 points possible to 50 points possible, right? And the paper is 100 points. So the paper and the exercises carry a little bit more weight, which actually makes more sense. Okay. This textbook has a ton of information, but it's really good. It's got really good information. It's very current. I think it does a really good job of walking you through some really difficult concepts. Our class time will be, this Zoom class time will be super practical on purpose. Stop sharing so I can see everybody. I will record the classes. I will put those recordings up by the next day usually. I think this class is great. One thing that we are going to do in the classes, we will have at least one time this semester, we will have a class where we will do some mock therapy sessions. In pretty much every master's program, you start doing mock therapy sections pretty early in your program. In my program, I actually started seeing clients my second semester. Like most of the time you start early. Now, why in the world did we do that? Because therapy is a skill. It's not something that you perfect. It's something that you learn how to do. And what I've been finding and what I've been hearing, like I'm literally about to teach a Practicum 2 class right after this, which is the last class you take in the program. Every student says, I wish we would have done more mock sessions. So I just decided we're going to do that. So we're going to take a little bit of class time to do that. What that will look like, it will be very simple. What it will look like is I'll split you into groups of 3 on Zoom. I'll put you into groups of 3. You'll have someone that's a therapist, someone that's a client, and someone that's just observing. You'll do like a 10-minute, 15-minute little session. Maybe not all 3 get to do it at the time, depending on how much time we have. I'm going to let someone will be the therapist, someone will be the client, someone will observe. When you're done with that little session, you'll kind of process it, which means the observer can say, hey, I saw this and this and this. And what I'll typically do before we start those is I'll say, hey, tonight we're going to focus on active listening. And I'll say, here's what active listening looks like. And I might pick one of you and do like a 10-minute little session with you right then in the class. And say, this is what we're going to practice. And then you'll go do it. And then we'll come back, kind of talk about it a little bit, and then we'll keep on with class. Does that make sense? Is anybody nervous about that? If you're not nervous, you're lying. and it's okay. Well, if you're not nervous, that's great too. Most people are nervous, and it's okay. No big deal. Just remember that this is practice. We're practicing things. That's why you call it a practice, because you're practicing all the time. Okay. That's new, but and I'm not doing that for grade. That's not a grade. There's no pressure like to do it perfectly. That's just to practice. Okay. Now, let me stop there for a second. Let me share one more thing. With everyone. This is what Moodle, so everything you need is kind of at this top part of Moodle here, like important due dates are all listed there, instructions about the exercises, the hybrid paper instructions. I've given you like a reading schedule just in case you want that. Some people want that, some people don't. I typically would advise people to use the midterm study guides as you're reading, kind of use it, answer the questions as you're reading, but that's up to you. That's all that, that's pretty much all of that stuff I was going to share. Let me do one thing. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put you guys into groups, breakout groups, probably 3 or 4 in a group. You're going to do 2 things. The first thing is, well, actually you're going to do 3, but the first thing is like introduce yourself and like where you live and what program you're in and why you're taking this class. Just, you know, I would do, if we were live, this is the first thing I would do anyway with everyone. The second thing you're going to do is talk to each other and see if you have any questions about any of the stuff I just talked about. And then someone condense those questions down, and then you're going to tell those to me when we come back. Okay? And then just the third thing is, what expectations of this class or of me do you have? I kind of like to know, because it's important for us to know what we're expecting. Okay? So introduce yourself. Talk about any questions you might have. And then what are your expectations for this class? And we'll do that in about, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes, something like that. I'll give you a 1-minute heads up. And then we'll come back, have that discussion, and then we'll be done for the night. Okay? All right. Come back. Okay. And you should see something pop up on your screen now. All right. I love how everyone races to turn off their video before they come back to the whole class. So funny. Okay. All right. So what I'd love to do is just hear from everyone in terms of any questions that you guys came up with. And anyone can just jump in, just unmute yourself and jump in. Most likely, a lot of times we have the same questions, which is fine.
Okay, I'll go ahead and jump in. One of the expectations that we talked about is to learn about lifespan, like from A to Z, and been able to apply it in the career that we're choosing. And something else that we talked about is lifespan, like universal, because like the three of us just happen to be like immigrants from other countries. And then just one more thing, what would be like the turnaround time for getting a response by text, by message?
You're talking about like if you send a message through Moodle?
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually get back to people within a day. At least I try to, like 24 hours.
And not on weekends. We try not to send messages on weekends, right?
No, you can send them on the weekends. Fine. Yeah, that's fine.
And Dr. Chris, some of
Yeah.
the professors, they are open to give out their cell phone numbers. And we are not saying that we are going to bump you up with many, but sometimes it can be an emergency, something want to ask. Are you comfortable sharing yourself?
I do not share my cell phone number.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say this, that if you send an email
Mhm.
to me, and my email address is on the syllabus,
Yeah.
cbedard@amerton.edu, instead of through Moodle, I'll get back to you probably within an hour. Like I check that all the time. Moodle's a little clunky because I have to get into it, respond, versus that goes straight to my email. So that would be a pretty quick way to get hold of me too.
So the same email, the one which is in Enundu, we can use it on Gmail.
Yep. It's
yeah.
technically a Gmail account. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It just, that email doesn't go through Moodle. So anything that goes through Moodle just takes a little bit longer to get to. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. What other questions or expectations?
Oh, sorry, we had another question. We wanted
Yeah.
to know whether the groups, the groups that you are going to form us later, like when you said you make us to have three, an observer, a client, and the interviewer or a counselor, the way you set us today, would you like to retain us like that so that you can know we can be talking to each other?
I can't do that because I might have different people every class.
Okay.
So it'll always be random, unfortunately. I wish I could. Like if we were in in the classroom, probably that's what we would do for sure. But it's like we're at the mercy of the Zoom random breakout group. Yeah, good question though. Hey, that just means you get to meet more people. That's all.
Yeah.
Any other questions or expectations?
I can speak up if that's okay. I'm
Yeah.
Karen. And I met with Sarah and we both tried to figure out some questions and decided you're just very thorough because we both had kind of read over all of the things on Moodle. And so I don't really have, and she didn't really have any questions as far as that goes. The only thing I did notice is when I was going through some of the reading and the study guide, that some of the things don't exactly, some of them you can find the answer right there. Some are kind of different, but I think you explained that in that it's a different edition.
Yeah, and sometimes the answers aren't readily apparent anyway. You'll have to apply what you're learning. You'll have to maybe think through it a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. And then as far as expectations go, we talked about because there is so much information, I really want to be able to get through the information, but not feel like it has been like a fire hose of information just thrown at us, and I don't really, and I end up thinking, did I really get substance? I want some depth
Yeah.
to it, which
Yeah. Yeah.
I would think is possible, at least to a degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as expectations go, just to prepare us for our LPC, or whatever area of this type of field you're going into, but also to prepare for the next class, so that we feel like the program, and so you'll know kind of what we're going to need to know going forward. And both of us, this is one of her first classes, and I'm a transfer student, so it's my first class with Amberton, but my third
Okay.
class overall. So
Yeah.
but that's about it.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
Is anyone else here? This is one of your first 5 classes in Amberton? Several people.
Yes, my
Mine,
professor.
mine.
Yeah. Is anyone
Yes.
here had more than 5 classes at Amberton? All right. So anyone here that's had more than 5, is anyone have more than 10?
I don't think we had to take 10.
Yes. If you've had, is anyone here close to pre-practicum?
I have 2 classes to go before pre-practicum.
All right. Tell Karen what to expect.
To expect on what?
For classes. So this is her first class at Amberton. She's transferred. Her third class, really. What should she expect the rest of the way?
Okay, at least it depends from one professor to another, but if you can be able to follow the outline and be able to meet the deadlines and days that you are told to submit the work, I think the best thing is to go understand it earlier. But if you are the last minute person, then you may feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so if you can be able to take some time, even if it's 2 hours a day, to be able to prepare for a class, I think you can be able to do well. But don't wait the last minute.
This is gold. This is gold. Don't wait till the last minute.
Yes.
If you're taking multiple classes, especially.
And at the beginning, I felt like what probably they are feeling, because I was thinking, I was always like on guard on myself, but they will realize that as they get to the professors for Amberton, they are very understanding. They know you are working and going to school, and they are lenient, if I may say that. Yes.
Yeah, I think we do. I feel like we do a pretty good job of
Yeah.
accommodating folks and trying our best to help
Yeah.
you. But we want you to learn. That's the goal, right? We want you to be able to learn and grow. This class, I'm not going to lie, this is the water holes in the mouth class. You're going to get a lot of information. However, the reason why I do the Zoom classes is to break it down enough so that we can talk through a few, of the bigger clinical aspects of it. There's no way we can't. Like, for example, we're going to skip over, like, I'm assuming everyone knows how people get pregnant and have babies. We're going to skip that, right? There's a lot of people in this class that know how that works. We're not going to worry about that particular thing. Not that that's not important, because that can be a niche of working with new moms or couples that are brand new that are having kids first. That's a niche right now in our clinical world. So that's important, but we're going to skip through that. What I'm going to probably do is jump into elementary school, because every person that works with people, whether they're adults or kids or adolescents, you're going to work with someone that was either an elementary kid or has elementary kids or is parenting or something. You're going to work with some form of that. Same thing with adolescents. We're going to talk about adolescents clinically speaking. And we're going to do that same thing adult wise. We're going to do all of that clinically. We're going to talk about different things. So I'll break it down, but the information, there is a lot of information. That is true. And it's a 10-week class. So By nature, 10-week classes go fast. Too. So maybe that's not what your anxiety wanted to hear. But here's the deal. Here's my first lesson. Our brain is not wired for happiness. Our brain is wired for one thing, survival, period. Okay? Our brain wants to stay alive. Doesn't mean it doesn't want us to be happy. It's not wired for that. It's wired to keep us alive. That's why we have fight or flight, right? There's a little bitty almond-shaped little piece called the amygdala in the middle of our brain. And when we fight or flight, we pop our top, and that's what happens with anxiety. That's what happens with depression. That fight or flight system is super important 1,000 years ago when things were chasing us and things were bigger than us and we needed to run and we need to be safe. We're sitting in our house right now. Probably, I don't think anyone here is being chased by a tiger or a bear or anything like that. We're safe. But you can still feel anxious. Why? Because your brain's doing the exact same thing it used to do all this time. So here's what you can do. You can literally say to your brain right now, if you feel anxious, you can say, I'm safe right now. I don't like all this information I'm going to have to go through, but I'm okay. 9 times out of 10, you're going to feel better. So that's free therapy. That's probably $50 worth of therapy right there. I just gave it to you free. If we keep going, I have to charge you like 100.
Really quickly, that kind of segues well into the questions and expectations we had in mind in our group really quickly. So the question that we had was, are we going to touch on the topics of like transitions from individual life stages? Are we going to do just like life stages as individuals? Because I know you said that you kind of marked them out as 3 separate ones.
Yeah.
Is the transition period from one stage to another a topic we're going to cover, and is it a very important piece of it?
Sort of, but you're going to really rely on your theory work to do that. Piaget,
Okay.
Erickson, all those guys, because they talk about transitions a lot better than we will in the class.
Great. Okay.
For sure.
And then that
but
also
I will talk about some transitions, especially when we get from in the adolescent world into adulthood. We'll talk about some of that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also the expectation we had, just kind of the awareness of the fact that there's so much that's going to be coming at us in any given class, and that we can't come out knowing every single thing that we absorb, but just grasping a greater understanding and being able to like grab onto it enough in order to develop those ideas further as we move on through our classes is kind of the expectation we came down to, because we joked about being experts as soon as we left the class and knowing every single thing. And clearly that's not attainable, but just grasping enough for us to be able to move on.
I think that'd be great.
What is great?
That'd
the
be
whole
awesome.
textbook is actually in our brains.
If I
by the end of
if I could do that, then I could charge anything I wanted. and then instantly have people like be smarter or something. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. Yeah, you guys are going to be fine. You're going to be fine. This is going to be hard. And it's okay. We can do hard things. Probably you have all done harder things than you're going to do in this class already in your life anyway. This will not be one of the hardest things in your life necessarily that you've done. Now, academically speaking, it's going to be difficult. On the grand scheme, is it really harder than some stuff you guys have gone through? Probably not. Like if we start telling stories right now, we'd be like, oh, this class is going to be, that's not really going to be that hard. But academically, it'll be pretty tough. On purpose, it's got to be, right? Here's what you need to be a good counselor. The first thing you need is you need to like people. If you don't like people, this is wrong place, because people do crazy stuff and fun stuff and surprising stuff. I mean, when you work with people, you get all the stuff that comes with people. So if you don't like people, this isn't for you. The second thing you need is to realize that you are practicing something. You're just practicing something. I learn stuff all the time. All the time. That's really all you need. All the other stuff you're going to learn, skills and information and, You're gonna learn all that stuff. All right. Now I've got to stop because I've got another class next week. If I didn't get to something, you can shoot me a message or we can talk about it next week. We're gonna have 2 hours next week, but we're gonna jump right in, and I'm gonna open the fire hose and I'm just gonna like let it go all over. Okay. If you do have questions, yeah, just shoot me a message. That cbedard@amerton.edu is way quicker, faster than going through Moodle for sure. You can go through Moodle, it's fine. But that's a little bit quicker way to get a hold of me. Now, everyone go do something else. I don't care what you do. Just go, I don't know, go to bed. I don't know, something. All right.
Professor Chris, are we going to be using the same link?
Yeah. Yeah, the links are on Moodle. I think it's the same, but I'm not sure. It's probably changed a little bit because I changed the dates on it, but the link's on Moodle.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.